Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the STL Q1 FY22 earnings conference call. I am Pankaj Dhawan, Head Investor Relations at STL. To take us through the Q1 FY22 results and to answer your questions, we have with us Dr. Anand Agarwal, CEO STL, and Mr. Mihir Modi, CFO STL. Please note that all participant lines are in the listen-only mode as of now. There will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Please note that this call is being recorded. You can also download a copy of the presentation from our website at www.stl.tech. Before we proceed with this call, I would like to add that some elements of today's presentation may be forward-looking in nature and must be viewed in relation to the risk pertaining to the business. The safe harbor clause indicated in the presentation also applies to this conference call. For opening remarks, I now hand over the call to Dr. Anand Agarwal. Over to you, Anand.
Yeah, thank you, Pankaj. Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining our Q1 FY22 earnings conference call. I'll just take you forward from the previous interaction that we had during our analyst day, the Stelloscope 2021. In that Stelloscope 2021, we broadly discussed the following points. First of all, we talked about the fact that almost a decade-long digital network creation cycle has started, which is driven essentially by 5G, fiber to the X, as well as rural connectivity programs throughout the world. Second, we talked about the fact that we are well poised to leverage this opportunity with our total addressable market now increasing to almost $40 billion. Our total addressable market has grown almost 5 times in the last 5 years on the back of both new capability additions and the portfolio additions, as well as new global markets in which we operate now. And the third part that we talked about was focus clearly is towards gaining higher market share in this increased addressable market of 40 billion with our 3 growth levers. And we will discuss each of these 3 points a bit briefly as we move forward. So on the decade-long network creation cycle, we are clearly seeing that, as we said, 5G, fiber to the X, where X can be home, X can be enterprise, small cells, or data centers, as well as rural connectivity programs are powering this digital network creation cycle. And 5G clearly is the fastest growing technology in terms of progression and adoption globally. There are more than 170 5G commercial networks running across the globe now. And the subscriber base is increasing and will almost be close to 2 billion subscribers by 2023 and more than 4.5 billion by 2025-26. The FTTX is clearly becoming all pervasive, and fiber is connecting homes, businesses, data centers, as well as small cells across the globe. In Europe, fiber to the homes and business subscribers are expected to more than double in the next 5 years and to reach to almost 208 million. And closer home in India, fiber broadband subscribers are also expected to reach more than 10 million subscribers pretty shortly. If we are looking the focus that rural connectivity is taking, we are seeing many programs being announced towards that. We saw recently the US president announcing a large infrastructure fund, and almost $65 billion out of that is focused on rural broadband. We saw the Indian government also announcing almost 20,000 crores as viability gap funding for the ongoing BharatNet program. So going forward, we are clearly expecting that the network build cycle to pick up pace driven by these three coinciding drivers. And as a result, the optical fiber demand is expected to increase what we saw at about 470 million last year to more than 610 million in the next by 2025 or so. In terms of the TAM, in the last 5 years, our clear focus was both in increasing the portfolio as well as in terms of increasing the geographic areas of presence for us. If we see our optical connectivity solution now with the addition of full optical interconnect portfolio, the addressable market has now increased to almost 18 to 20 billion US, which is split almost evenly between the optical cables as well as the interconnect kits. With the addition of Optotec in our portfolio, our addressable market with these customers has more than doubled in this segment. On the system integration front, our current addressable market is about $14 billion. This includes all the customer segments in India of telcos, enterprises, citizen networks, as well as cloud companies. We also cater to the cloud segment in Europe through our data center interconnect offering. In addition to that, we are also now moving into Europe to address the FTTX and wireless integration opportunities. Coming to virtualized access as well as network software product opportunity, it stands cumulatively at about $8 billion US for us. If we look at the subsegments, Open RAN as well as small cell, current global market sizes close to about $5 billion. Our focus clearly moving forward is to increase the market share in this increased TAM, and we have outlined clear 3 growth levers towards achieving that. The 3 focused levers for our growth is we grow the first one is to clearly grow the optical business. The second one is towards globalizing the system integration business as well as scaling it in India. And the third one is towards building a strong wireless and access solutions business for us. We will talk about how we progressed on each of the growth levers in the current quarter. So on the optical business front, what we are seeing is that both the optical volume is increasing as well as the interconnect business is also scaling. Our optical market share, the fiber market share, grew to almost 6.5% globally in the preceding quarter, as compared to about 4.5% in Q1 of last year. Also, what we saw that the industry optical fiber volume grew to 131 million kilometers, which is about 6% growth on a year-on-year basis during the current quarter. In the interconnect business, we clearly recorded more than double-digit growth in revenues on a quarter-on-quarter basis. Our focus is to continue to increase the penetration of our Opticon, which is the end-to-end optical solution with all our customers. On the system integration front, we have, as we informed in the last couple of quarters, we have entered the UK market at a time when the market is at a 10-year fiber to the X build cycle, with various operators planning multi-million passes towards homes, enterprises, cell sites, etc. The UK Prime Minister has launched a £5 billion investment in Project Gigabit, which plans to connect rural areas with fast broadband. And we are starting to capitalize on this opportunity. We are very pleased to announce our first win. We have partnered with a leading provider of telecom solutions in the UK, and we are planning to deploy our FTTX Mantra solution to connect homes with broadband. It's an initial about £12 million project, but it provides us the impetus, and we expect this project to be completed in the current fiscal. And in order to further accelerate our system integration business in Europe, we have just announced an acquisition of Clearcom, which is a provider of end-to-end optical network integration services in the UK. The company Clearcom has a long-standing relationship with its customers and suppliers and has a strong reputation as a reliable as well as an agile partner. Clearcom had revenues of about £20 million in FY20. It has grown almost at a CAGR of 26% in the last 3 years and has a healthy working capital cycle of about 15 days. The company has close to 50 employees. In terms of deal contours, the enterprise value of the deal is at about £15.5 million. We will be acquiring 80% in the first tranche, and the balance 20% shall be acquired in 2023. And the deal is getting financed both by a mix of internal accruals as well as debt. With this acquisition, we create a strong platform to grow the system integration business in the UK and then take it to other geographies in Europe as part of our growth strategy. In the access solutions business, this also has been a busy quarter for us. We have successfully completed proof of concept for the programmable fiber to the X software solution with Chunghwa Telecom, so open broadband access network. So what this software essentially does for us is the fact that along with Opticon, which is a solution which is a cable plus interconnect solution, this provides the end equipment. This provides the provisioning, the active provisioning at the end equipment. And we are able to create a full end-to-end fiber to the X solution, which includes cables, interconnect, fiber, as well as the end equipment. So this POC that we collaborated demonstrated how our fully virtualized optical line terminal software stack enables Chunghwa to upgrade its gigabit passive optical network or GPON network to a 10 gigabit symmetric PON network. This is a fiber access technology for symmetric broadband speeds for up to 10 gigabits per second. And this is being deployed for enterprises in Taiwan, and very soon it will be deployed for home usage as well. We have also entered in a strategic collaboration with Facebook Connectivity to co-develop general purpose radio under the EvenStart program. The EvenStart program is a collaborative effort by Facebook as well as global partners to accelerate the adoption of Open RAN technology. And with this collaboration, the product development, promotion, and supply chain would be partly funded and promoted through this collaboration. As we plan to develop the manufacturing ecosystem for radio units in India, we are also participating in the PLI scheme announced earlier this year by the Indian government. And the efforts that we are putting have started yielding results. We recorded small revenues this quarter in our access solutions business after delivering the new standard Wi-Fi 6 hardware to our key account customer in Asia Pac. Now to talk a bit about our foundational capabilities, the update on that which we provide on a quarter-to-quarter basis. We have strengthened each of our 4 foundational capabilities, which are technology-led end-to-end solutions, key account management, ecosystem alliances, and investments, as well as building top talent and culture within the organization. And we'll discuss an update on each of them, starting with technology-led end-to-end solutions. As we had discussed at the Stelloscope, we have established ourselves as an end-to-end solution provider for fiber to the home, fiber to the X, as well as 5G networks. We have recently launched Axelis, which is a wireless solution that brings together both micro and macro radio, the RAN intelligent controller, as well as with an ecosystem, the orchestrator across the various parts of the network. to lead this transition towards 5G, Wi-Fi 6, and more open source technologies. What is extremely heartening to note that in a very short span of time, we've been recognized by Gartner as a key 5G RAN vendor and among top 10 vendors to watch out for by STL partners for this Open RAN technology. We've been also on the key account focus is also leading towards multi-portfolio engagement. We've been enhancing our customer engagements both with current and new accounts. While we have nurtured existing key accounts such as BT Openreach and Airtel to drive their multi-year strategic network build plan, we've also opened door to new accounts such as a 5-year contract for radio units in the US, as well as a digital transformation contract in Africa's multi-country telco. Also, as we participate in multiple geographies, our key account focus is leading towards more than one or a multi-portfolio engagement with our key customers. We now have a diversified participation funnel across the globe, with more than now the funnel is more than 60% towards our key accounts, and in which we are engaging into multi-portfolio engagements across our optical business access as well as system integration solutions. In terms of investments, as we announced, we are also going closer to the customer by setting up solution centers both at US and UK with an enhanced capacity for cable in these markets. This investment of about 2 billion rupees is going to increase the OFC capacity from 33 to 42 million kilometers, which will make us one of the largest in terms of optical fiber cable globally. Our technology focus is towards clearly developing a comprehensive product portfolio for Axelis, which is just talked about. We are also continuing to do annual investment of about 3 to 4% of our revenues in developing this portfolio, as well as the other portfolio for the FTTX. If we look at our portfolio, we have successfully launched Wi-Fi 6, 5G multi-band radio, as well as our indoor small cell Garuda in the last couple of quarters. We have also successfully piloted the programmable FTTX solutions in this quarter, and we are in the developmental phase for the RAN intelligent controller, which we shall be launching in the upcoming quarter. So the portfolio is fully building up both at our end as well as in collaboration with the ecosystem Open RAN partners. We are clearly positioning ourselves as someone who can offer an end-to-end networking solution. Coming towards talent, top talent and culture, we have now built a clear global leadership team, and we continue to strengthen that team globally. In newer areas of growth like optical interconnect, system integration in UK, as well as access solutions, we are continuing to strengthen the team. Along with the leadership team, we are also strengthening the overall team strength in these areas, both with experienced people as well as very, very great talent coming out of the best schools globally. Coming towards the pandemic, which we saw, especially in India, at a very, very major scale in the current quarter, it has been an extremely challenging time for all of us. During these times, we clearly stood by each other and extended the best possible support to our employees, our communities in which we operate, as well as the larger ecosystem. We extended complete support in terms of in any case of few cases of loss of life that we had for the ecosystem employees. We are extending full support in terms of employment, medical cover, education, as well as skill building to the family members. We created a STL family team of employees, which acted as a nodal body and coordinated support to all employees from symptom stages towards post-treatment stage. We are conducted vaccination drives as well as continuing to provide full vaccination at various locations in which we operate. Clearly, this is fully not over, but we have a very, very vigilant team towards providing support at physical level, at medical care, as well as all kinds of counseling services. So, with these foundational capabilities, we are extremely confident that we are on our path to deliver our financial targets. And I would now hand over to Mihir to discuss these financials.
Thank you, Anand, and a very good day to everybody. Indeed, with the foundational capabilities that Anand just discussed, and our focus on specific growth levers, which are on the back of the industry opportunity of this network creation cycle, we indeed are looking at translating that into financial performance. This quarter's result is also a small step in that direction. I will quickly take you through the key aspects of this quarter's results. As you see on the screen, our order book grew from 103 billion rupees same time last quarter to 212 billion rupees. Out of this, 42 billion is executable this fiscal itself. We also have a substantial, about 23% of O&M revenues, which will start kicking in FY23, and that will be a non-trivial contribution to the revenues as we go ahead from FY23 onwards. Our revenue mix is again moving in the direction that we intend it to move. From a customer segment standpoint, it is moving towards the telco heavy side. From a geography, EMEA and the Americas are those markets are contributing heavier to our mix. This is on the back of some notable wins that we've had. A large multi-million-dollar deal with a European telco for our Opticon solution, so on and so forth. We clearly want to make sure that we expand and serve the growing European markets, the US investments that are happening as we go ahead. And this mix of our revenues in this quarter is and a small indicator of the direction we are intending to take and are able to take. On the execution side, well, there was a bit of a hiccup again in Q1 on the execution side because of the pandemic's second wave in India. But post that, our execution is running at full speed. Some of our key projects, which all of you all are aware of, are either towards the end of completion or chugging along very well. Project Varun at 95%, Mahanet above 90%. The fiber rollout for the large Indian telco is inching at halfway mark, so on and so forth. Of course, we have in addition now the UK gigabit network, which we will kickstart. Of course, we have close to completing more than 80% completed on a data center hyperscale project in the India market as well. So overall, we continue to expand the geographies, the kind of projects that we are doing, and we're taking steps ahead in this direction. Moving to the specific numbers of the P&L, very happy, despite, as I mentioned, a little hiccup on the pandemic side, overall happy that despite the pandemic, we clocked 13.09 billion rupees of revenue at an EBITDA of 2.38 billion rupees. That's an 18.2% EBITDA margin. We did a PAT of 1.16 billion. The revenue is a growth of 49% over the same quarter last year. Overall, we expect the underlying momentum to continue. The quarter-on-quarter dip is primarily because of some pandemic impact in Q1. But we would aspire to get back into the quarter-on-quarter growth momentum that you've seen over the last 4 quarters. We certainly intend and aspire to get back on track, and there's no reason we should not be able to. As we had shared with most of y'all who joined us at this Telescope earlier this month, we plan to reach 100 billion annualized run rate by Q4 of FY23. This will be on the back of a very focused strategy, it translating in the form of growth levers that Anand also laid out earlier in the presentation. Our growth will come from optical connectivity business through globalization of system integration, and then how we build our access solutions business. We are confident of reaching this number, and we are taking steps ahead as we go on this one. Just laid out the abridged version of the financials here. As I mentioned, the first column, 13 billion at an 18.2% EBITDA, and a PAT of 1.16 billion rupees. Overall, we are committed to what we have on our minds every single day. Revenue run rate of 100 billion rupees by the fourth quarter FY23. We are watching the net debt very closely to make sure that we get to a 0.5 net debt equity ratio by, again, the fourth quarter of FY23, and ROCE objective remains at 20%. I think very comfortable that we are moving towards these objectives, and we'll continue to communicate to you of our progress towards this. I think one more piece which we would want to now share with you all, as we have shared in the past as well, is our commitment to our ESG targets. We've been endeavoring to be a responsible leader and not just to make a world connected, but also inclusive and responsible. It results in actions such as how we source what goes into our products, how we design the material so that there is minimal impact on the environment, how our partners develop those materials and our waste disposal methods. Just to share some examples, we've diverted 135,000 metric tons of waste away from landfills. And not just diverted away from landfills, but also reduced it at source and recycled and reused them as inputs. So we plan to grow in an environmentally responsible manner. On the sustainability part, we are fully aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We make efforts to reduce our waste. 100% all our manufacturing locations are zero waste to landfill certified. We have reduced the carbon footprint by 50% over the last few years, and recycled more than 1.15 million cubic meters of water. We are actively and continuously working on reducing and minimizing emissions at our manufacturing and other facilities. Overall, again, to make sure that we create a connected but sustainable world. On the governance side, and this is something that is very close to my heart as well, is we are very focused on the best board governance and internal practices at multiple levels. We've built an advisory council with about 60% of our advisors who have global experience of building technology-led businesses. Our independent directors come in with they're of repute, come in with stature, and bring a lot of new thinking in terms of the global experience diversity as well as, of course, gender diversity. We have 2 of the Big Four auditors who are looking at our statutory and internal audits, and we are committed to a very, very high level of external inputs and validation to what we are doing. On an operating level, we've built a very focused system of executive committees, business level management committees, to make sure that we drive the business goals in a very structured manner, at the same time adherence to our code of conduct. I think while we continue to do all of this, our ESG goals are even more ambitious. Our goals include impacting 5 million lives by about 2025, undertaking 5 million plantations, while reducing our carbon footprint by 50% by 2030. We are looking at replenishing 5 million cubic meters of water again by 2025, and all of these efforts we will need your support and help, but we continue to keep this as an important target for the organization and are fully committed to achieving these targets. In summary, from an industry tailwind perspective, we are indeed in a decade-long network creation cycle driven by 5G, FTTX. There is rural connectivity programs. All of these are being rolled out as we speak, and we see a good 10 years ahead of this activity and growth that we need to contribute to, and as a company will benefit from. Of course, to be able to do that, we've worked in a very focused manner over the last 5 years by building geographical capabilities / forays and product portfolio capabilities, thereby increasing our TAM by 5x to now $40 billion. We have to focus on making sure that we play well in this and increase our market share. Of course, very, very structurally, 3 growth levers: grow the optical business. We are growing capacities there, globalizing the system integration business. Entry into UK is one such step. And then on the access solution side, we've started to build that in an accelerated manner, not just with our R&D spends, but also going out now into getting customer validation and eventually revenues. I think we are, as Anand briefly mentioned, we are strengthening our foundational capabilities through our E2E solutions, very, very focused approach on key accounts and the relationships there, making sure we have the right ecosystem investments. Very, very proud to be able to now acquire the top talent from the world, and all that we hope that will take us to our plan of 100 billion revenue run rate by the fourth quarter of FY23. Net debt equity of less than 0.5 and ROC north of 20%. So with this, we come to the end of our opening commentary, and we can move to the Q&A now.
Ladies and gentlemen, please note that if you want to ask a question, you can click on the raise hand, and we shall take your questions one by one. So we'll take the first question from the line of Mr. Pranav Kshatriya. Pranav, you can ask your question now.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity. I have 3 questions. Firstly, can you tell us about how much is the OF OFC capacity utilization for this quarter, and what are the trends you are seeing for the OF pricing across the globe?
Sure, Pranav. So on a capacity front, our new capacity for the cables is now coming up fully on shape. So I would say if I take the full capacity of 33 million, we are now running at about 70% to 75% of the capacity. In terms of the pricing for us is largely through long-term contracts, so it has been more stable. We are seeing the demand outlook as well as the supply demand constraint now becoming the delivery times are getting tighter. So clearly, any new contracts that we enter in are at slightly better pricing than what we had, say, in the previous year.
My second question is on this Prysmian lawsuit. Today we had this news of Prysmian has launched a lawsuit regarding patent infringement on a couple of your products. Can you just highlight us, what exactly is this about, and what would be the contribution of the products under litigation?
This is very recent right now. It is related to our increasing and strengthening our presence in the European market and UK, and it is normally done by competitions as a sort of competitive tactic. We are pretty clear that there aren't any IP issues that we have, and but the thing has just come and it's sub judice, we'll provide more information, but we are absolutely confident that all our products and capabilities, we have our own strong portfolio, and we believe these as more competitive measures being taken in a few markets.
Yes, my last question is little, I just need bookkeeping answer for this. What is the current net debt for the company, and what was the capex for this quarter?
So current net debt for the company is north of 26 billion rupees, Pranav, and the capex. So capex, while the capex outflow was in double digit, we also had a inflow of capex through sale of land, which we reported in the exceptional item. So the net capex was quite low.
Thank you. That's it from my side.
We'll take the next question from the line of Mr. Nirav Dalal. Nirav, you can ask your question now.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. I had three questions. First is on the recent announcement by Bharat Broadband. So they've come out with the tenders for nine packages. How do you see us playing in this auction? And what do you expect to be the timeline for this going ahead? So when do you see tendering to happen and implementation to start?
Sure, Nirav. So the current information which has come through, the response has to go by end of August or so. So our as we have participated in the previous opportunities, we'll look at each opportunity for providing our end-to-end capabilities, which will include cables, interconnect, as well as the now the FTTX solution at the edge also. So our participation will be as both as a provider as well as a full end-to-end system integration in select opportunities. We believe that the orders, the whole process should take a good part of this quarter and maybe something in next quarter. And whatever orders come in, part of it will kind of accrue in H2 of the current year, but a bulk of that will be towards FY23.
Right. And my next question is regarding the recent acquisition that we've announced today. What are the margins of the business, and how should one look at this business in the next 3 to 5 years?
Sure. So this is a relatively company which has grown in the last 5-6 years. The margin is between 13 to 15% during these years, and it has grown at about 25-26% year on year over the last 3 years. Our focus clearly is to kind of leverage this platform along with the the team that we had showcased, that we have built up in UK as well, and with the combined capabilities, strengthen that growth. So definitely, with us coming along with Clearcom, the overall both the opportunity as well as the growth ought to be faster than the 26% that the company has shown.
Got that. And lastly, just in terms of the extraordinary items that were there in this quarter, there was a sale of land, and there were certain provision charge and impairment charge. So if you could just explain in terms of what is the impairment charge and the lease cancellation and the non-fulfillment of that.
Sure. So we have three of these. There is one lease which we had to cancel, and therefore that came in as an extraordinary or exceptional item because we had to settle that and pay a certain amount as a part of the cancellation terms. So that was one. Second, we had a certain case and we've made provision for that. It's a more conservative decision to make a provision for that case that has been filed against us. And the last is a regular kind of reassessment of certain assets and an impairment that we felt appropriate to take based on the revised value of assets assessed by the management team there.
Just on this, on the non-fulfillment, is it something recent? And in terms of the impairment charge, how should one look at it going ahead? What was the effect regarding?
So the first part, no, it's not recent. The assessment and the conservative approach on the provision is something that we decided. We've spoken about some of these and disclosed some of these cases in the past as well. And we've made provisions against that in the past as well. But like I said, as a conservative assessment, I would rather make a provision than be surprised. Sorry, Nirav, what's the question on these?
On the impairment, how do you? So what was this? What are these assets, and how should one look at it?
I think again the impairment is a part of a regular cleanup understanding of which asset is performing how, and this is just a part of that. It's again a conservative approach to how we'd like to keep our balance sheet. There is no substantial risk around that.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Nirav. We'll take the next question from the line of Mukul Garg. Mukul, you can ask your question now.
Hi, thanks. Anand, I first wanted to kind of inquire on the gross margin side. The gross margin this quarter was one of the highest, I think, in last 8 to 10 quarters. Was this primarily because of a lower share of services, or was there any impact you had because of price increases or increase in the share of product business? And how sustainable is this gross margin going forward?
Yeah, you're right, Pranav. It was largely due to the fact that the proportion of services was slightly lower in the current quarter. So our GM and the EBITDA numbers that we have guided for will largely be in the range that we have spoken about, closer to 17 to 18%. And the current GM in this quarter is just a reflection of the mix.
Understood. And the other part was on the order book. There is a decent pickup in the order book this quarter. Is the incremental order flow coming in on the network services or access side, or have you actually started seeing an increase in the duration of the fiber business? I think you alluded to partially to that earlier on the call when you said like you have started seeing some tightening. So has that started leading to some long duration orders coming back into the system?
Yeah, absolutely. So during the quarter, it has been a large part of it has been European telcos and multi-year Opticon sort of engagements, which has included both the fiber cable as well as the interconnect orders. We got some orders for system integration as well as the access part also, but the larger portion has been the optical business and largely through European telcos.
Sure. And the last one was on the regional mix. It was really interesting to see US now contributing 11% of your revenues this quarter. That was a major jump. Is this something which you see as sustainable, or will this remain a lumpy factor? And the second part of this was on the China side. The China JV is not contributing anything to revenues now. Have you exited it, or is there some sort of a pause there?
So a couple of points. One is for what we report as Americas includes both US as well as Latin America. So the jump that we saw from 5% last year to about 11% this year is clearly on account of the growth that we are seeing in North America more. And in terms of the China facility, in terms of what we report is in terms of the revenues from a sales perspective. So the China facility, whatever usage that we have is more towards production rather than towards the sale in the market. So in terms of marketplace, we are not selling much or hardly anything in China anymore.
Okay. Just to clarify, the North American business, do you expect that to remain sustainable, or will it be a kind of volatile based on order flow?
No, we believe so. We are seeing a great traction, and that's what led us to decide to have a point of presence. Also, if you would have noticed, Mukul, we first enter a market through sales, then through distribution, and then through manufacturing. The fact that we believe it is now sustainable has led us to decide on this investment in the US market as well.
Great. Thanks for taking my question. I'll get back into the queue.
Sure.
Thanks, Mukul. We'll take the next question from the line of Mr. Ravi Mehta. Mr. Ravi, you can ask your question now.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the opportunity. So with the uptick in fiber prices, as you mentioned, the new orders coming at higher price, is there a case where we can see some improvement in margins despite the mix, reverting back to the expected one?
Ravi, as mentioned, we take more longer term sort of orders. So there is clearly an expectation that the orders in future that we get, as well as maybe the profile as the mix starts moving, should improve some margins. At the same time, the mix towards system integration business is also increasing with the global presence, and our R&D spend consciously that we are now making it between 3 to 4%. So at the current level, we will continue to guide at the company level to be between 17 to 18%. However, all endeavors are towards making sure that we take every opportunity to make it better.
Sure. And one bookkeeping question. What was the inflow from the sale of land, if you can share that?
The inflow this quarter was 67 crore.
So I believe that was the gain. So the sale amount is similar, or?
Yes, incidentally, we got the first tranche, a small amount last quarter in terms of cash flows, which was equivalent to the cost. So this quarter, we booked the whole gain, which was incidentally the same amount.
Okay. Sure. Most of the questions got answered. Thanks.
Thanks, Ravi. We'll now take the next question from the line of Mr. Mangesh Kulkarni. Mangesh, you can ask your question now. Yeah, we're not able to hear you, Mangesh.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. So regarding the exchange filing, you mentioned that we are going for organizational.
Your volume is be a bit loud, please.
So is it okay now?
Yes,
Hello?
yes, better.
Yeah. So I just wanted to know about this organizational restructuring what you planned. So just more details on that. And secondly, on this 1,000 crore fundraising plan. So what is the thought process? Where you want to utilize it? Just if you provide some light on that. Thanks.
Sure. So let me answer both. The 1,000 crore fundraising resolution is an enabling resolution. We have been taking that from the board or in the past, except for the last one, and that too because of the buyback we could not. So this is something that we've always done in the past to make sure that we have an enabling resolution in place. On your other question relating to reorganization, we have multiple entities across the world, and it was felt that we need to make sure that we clean up and optimize the corporate structure. So that's the effort that we're going to make, and the item is on that account.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mangesh. We'll take the next question from the line of Mr. Dheeraj Dhan. Dheeraj, you can ask your question now. Yeah, we're not able to hear you, Dheeraj. Okay. We'll take, in the meantime, Mr. Dheeraj comes, we'll take the next question from the line of Mr. Vipul Kumar Shah. So Vipul Kumar, you can ask your question now.
Hi, sir. Congratulations for a good set of numbers. My question is regarding our order book. Although our addressable market has grown 5x, why the order book has not kept pace with our addressable market? And I missed the comment regarding this exceptional item. What is the profit from land sale this quarter? Can you quantify? Thank you.
Sure, Mr. Vipul Kumar, I'll address the addressable market. So the addressable market growth that we've seen is over a 5-year period, and our clearly order book over this period has grown significantly. So the order book that we are now talking about is on a quarter-on-quarter basis, which has grown by, I think, by about 5 to 6% on a quarter, from 10.7 or 107 billion to 112 billion on a quarter-on-quarter basis. And the clear focus moving forward is with this higher addressable market is towards both taking a bigger market share of it, and you'll see this order book growing on a quarter-on-quarter basis as we move forward. Mayor, can you? Yeah.
Sure, thank you. Regarding the land sale, the profit, the total cash inflow across 2 quarters, large chunk coming in this quarter, was approximately 75 crore, and the profit on that was 67 crore. Of course, we had some other exceptional items which were negative items in the form of provisions, and therefore the net exceptional item upside in the financials is approximately 16 crore.
Thank you and all the best.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Shah. In the meantime, we'll take one question, Anand and Mir, which has come through the chat. The question is from Mr. Anil Tumedi. He wants to understand that if we are participating in BBNL's BharatNet PPP, and also are we participating in the PLI scheme?
Yeah, Sanil, for BharatNet, we just talked about the part that will be participating as a system integrator and as a cable provider for the opportunities which are coming in. And for PLI also, we have made an application under the PLI scheme for the radio hardware, and so there is a participation on the PLI as well.
Sure. Thanks, Anand. And we can take maybe one more question from the chat, which has come from Dheeraj Dhan, who was earlier not able to ask. How does Western world apprehensions regarding China affect you? How would you score against the likes of Huawei and ZTE?
We do not actually directly compete with the likes of Huawei and ZTE, but at the same time, I get the perspective of the question. Clearly, the fact that we are now both in the markets where we operate in as a local provider, whether it is UK, Europe, US. So being a local provider as well as coming in from Indian origins is really helping us create a better visibility, better reliability in these marketplaces. So it helps being both local and Indian for us.
Thanks, Anand. We'll take the next question from the line of Mr. Anurag Jain. Anurag, you can ask your question now.
Yeah, thanks so much for the opportunity. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I had two questions. One was on the manufacturing setup that we plan to establish in UK and US. So while I understand the logic that business to be more sustainable there, so we want to have more permanent presence, but the logic of setting up manufacturing businesses in terms of cost competitiveness and the India advantage, how does that stack up?
Sure, Anurag. So we take this call based both on multiple factors, on the sustainability of the business, on the sustainability of the margin in these markets. So clearly, it's going to be a mix of capabilities, what we do locally, as well as what sort of comes in from the India facility. And both these decisions we took after weighing in all this perspective of local capacity, local margins and cost, as well as sustainability of business in these markets. And the fact that we have been operating the European facility, Metallurgica, for now almost 4 years, and increase the capacity there, we have a very good outlook in terms of how to get that balance between keeping the global capacities running while maintaining the margins locally.
Understood. Got that. Thank you so much. One last question from my side, which was on the acquisition. So we have done a reasonable bit of acquisitions over the last, quite a few number of years. So my question was, how has our experience been on that front? Have we been able to successfully integrate? Have those acquisitions actually, delivered what the intent was? So if you can, share some of your experiences there.
Yeah. I would say that's a very good question. I would say it has been largely positive. Definitely with each acquisition there has been some set of learnings that we've had, but through these acquisitions, and what we have done is more smaller ticket acquisitions, which are more focused towards capability or a market presence. So whether it was Metallurgica in Italy and Optotec recently, or IDS for the data center part, as well as the ASOX investment, each of them added capabilities for us. And I would say overall, we are extremely happy with our all the acquisitions that we have done, as well as the approach that we have taken. and our post-merger integration activities have also gotten more robust with every single acquisition. And it's now become a extremely strong playbook from identification to post-merger integration, which keeps getting better with every acquisition.
Okay, so just to dig in a little deeper here, so we've been able to retain the people, or we've been able to have knowledge transfers. So all that was possible and was done.
Absolutely. So I mean, both from construct of the acquisition itself, key people are part of the approach. But I'm extremely happy to mention that we haven't lost any key person which were part of the acquisitions that we did, especially the key people that we identified in each of these acquisitions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and all the best to all of you. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks, Anurag. Anand, maybe we'll take one last question which has come through chat from Mr. Rakesh Shah. The question is, has the business normalized in the services business after a slowdown in Q1?
Yes, Mr. Shah. So currently, from the middle of June onwards, we are now coming back to normalcy. We are clearly hoping and wishing that this normalcy is sustained as we move forward in the current quarter on the services side.
Thanks, Anand. Ladies and gentlemen, with this we come to the end of question and answer session, and I now hand it over back to Dr. Anand Agarwal for closing remarks.
Yeah, thanks, Pankaj. And I'd like to thank everyone for attending this call and continuing to show interest in our company. And I hope that we were able to address and clarify all your queries and comments. For any further questions, discussions, please feel free to contact our investor relations team, which includes myself and Meher. And we really look forward to continuing the conversation with you in the future. Thank you and have a great day.
Viraj, you can stop the recording, please. Thank you, everyone.